We are at the Palmwood Hilltop Guest House on the island of Kauai, a social enterprise, a retreat, a sanctuary, a reset, a reboot, a very special opportunity for brotherly time. My name is Kenji. As you know, I work on this project with my brother Taisei, and today we're taking a deep dive with Eddi and Steven. We're going to get into the Palmwood. What does it mean to be a retreat and a sanctuary? All the parts that go into it, especially what you consume. Double meaning there. Stay tuned for that. Eddi, thank you so much for inviting us here, having us at this home. Taisei and I are so blessed to be here. It's only been 24 hours-ish, but already it's different. And I want to get into, obviously, the beauty of this place as city boys of Hawaii. We are from the west side of Oahu, from Kapolei, born and raised, single mother household. I'm the youngest, and my brother Taisei was somewhat of the, in a lot of ways, model for me growing up. And here we are, 40-something years later, and we feel like we just started our learning education journey from you and Steven. We're going to dive into a lot of that, but first, how do you introduce yourself to people when you meet someone? Hi, I'm Eddi, I do blank. How would you describe yourself?
I'm Eddi, and it seems like the next sentence always is, I'm Korean.
That's a deep story that we're going to jump right into. What's your identity?
So I was born in Japan, but ethnically I'm Korean. My mother's Korean and my father's German.
Your mother's Korean, father's German, born in Japan. In what decade are we talking about?
I was born in 1960.
1960s Japan.
Yes.
German father, Korean mother in Japan. Was your name always Eddi?
It was always Eddi. However, when I migrated to the States, back then, it was very important to the parents to get their kids to assimilate quickly. And so when I came over to the States in 1968, my parents were like, you're now no longer going to be Eddi, which is a boy's name in the U.S., and we're going to call you Linda.
So it wasn't even your choice then?
No.
This is now you're Linda.
Yeah, now I'm Linda.
And when I heard it on the ride over, I was telling Ty, I'm listening to Amy's voicemail and all the details about this trip, and I'm hearing Eddi, but her. So I had that, is it Eddy, and the Eddi Invitational just started, so there's a bunch of Eddi top of mind things. But my Japanese side is thinking, well, that's could be the slight D and R in between sound of Eddi.
So it's spelled E-R-I, but as you know, in the Japanese language, the R is pronounced as a D.
Right.
But so when I got my citizenship and I straightened out my name and stuff, which was back in 2004, is when I just became a U.S. citizen, I changed the spelling to E-D-D-I because with the spelling of E-R-I, I was being called Erie.
Yes, you have to accommodate.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
And then it's spelled E-D-D-I, and I purposely left off the E, which is the typical Eddi spelling in the States. But it's so interesting. Everybody that I've spoken to on the phone thinks I'm a man.
Went down.
Yeah. So I think what happens is that people have kept, so like I was in the mortgage banking industry for like 25 years, and many of my clients I've never personally met, and I've done many business transactions with people I've never met in person, and they know the name, and they've had conversations with me, and they still are calling me like Mr. Henry or referring, or even like phone, people on the phone. They're like,
Wow.
I think they see the name Eddi, and then they picture a man, and then even though they hear my voice, they can't get that picture out. And they continue to think that I'm a man. And I know my voice is low, but not that low.
No, To me, it's
But my
right off the
mother, it's
bat.
funny. She said she used to be a taxi, like a phone operator, and she said that people would think that she was a man too, with her deep voice.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a sibling, a half sibling, that's 10 years younger than I.
Sister, brother,
Sister.
and what? Are you guys still talking?
We're very close. Yeah, my family grew up. We're very close. It was a small family. My parents, my sister, and I.
You know, that was one of the first things I heard about you that piqued my personal interest, is this growing up in Japan aspect as a international family. But there was a huge twist in your story, which I really want to hear you share with us today. What was this twist? I know it was when you're 17 and you moved to the States when you're 8 or 7. But give us an idea of that first, let's say, 8 years in Japan with an international parent, an international household in Japan. What was that like? And then also let's move that into that twist of fate, if you will, at 17.
So my life as a young child in Japan, I was being raised by my uncle, my mother's last remaining family member. Her parents and her other siblings she lost behind the North Korean line when that whole thing was going down. So her brother, so I lived, because my mother was a single mother, and she was going to school, and so I was being raised by my uncle and his wife. So Uncle Maritaka and Aunt Tomiko. And so I recall, I recall seeing my mother, on the weekends and, being really sad to see her go. But my aunt and uncle were amazing, loving parents, and I grew up really feeling like the most loved child in the world. So, so my mother then met my stepfather when I was around 6 years old, and so they got married, and they were going to go back to the States, and my father was going to go back to the States, and my mother, of course, for the first time. And so they came to say goodbye to me, because my mother had always, had given me up to them. So I was their child, and she wasn't going to take that back, and they couldn't have children of their own. So
when you say given, your mother gave you to them.
Yes.
I've heard this many times. Just for quick context, I spent 8 years living in Japan. The first 5 were working at elementary schools as an assistant language teacher in Shiga, very countryside of Japan. So I have my own kind of experiences, and some things that you're saying are echoing mine, even though they're a little bit apart in time. But this idea of parents giving their kids to other families, I've heard about. Can you expand on that a little bit, of what this was like in this time?
It wasn't, considered like you were abandoning your child. It was understood that you're seeking a better life for your child, and that may mean having to give them up and having them raised by, another family member, and that culture has very much seeped into Hawaii, where we have the term Hanai children, right? So, yeah, it wasn't about abandoning your child. It was like trying to give them the best life possible, and, with whom that may be.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then in that time, though, was there any kind of friction as far as, I know, so now your Korean mom in Japan has a stepfather, has married, and he is, what is his ethnicity? What's his background?
My stepfather is Portuguese and Irish.
Okay. And then you're growing up with your aunt and uncle, and you're just going to school. How was school for you, elementary school?
In Japan?
Yes.
I loved it. I mean, I look back at pictures, and our gymnastics and, were like made out of bamboo. And, it was, yeah, I was raised around nature and appreciation for it. And so like saying like, oh yeah, I love school. They had bamboo gymnastics,
No, I was on the Takeuma, those things where you stand up like this.
Yeah.
I was an assistant language teacher, so teaching English to kids in the countryside, looking like this, right?
Yeah.
Easy to stick out. But they all thought I was, and this is 2008, so they all thought I was Usain Bolt. They're calling me, like, are you from Jamaica? Because he was the brown face on the screen at that time. This is also when Obama, right, 2008. So I was that to a lot of these kids in the country. And, I rode with it. It's cool. I'm not going to jump into a history lesson as an assistant language teacher at recess time or even in our English lesson. I will correct if needed. But can you speak to this non-Japanese existence in Japan?
So like you asked how it was for me in elementary school. Well, I was still living under the pretense of being Japanese, not Korean. So I was treated as a Japanese child, not a Korean child, which is completely different.
How so
though? Japanese are very racist against Koreans.
Straight up.
Very similar to, blacks in the U.S. Yeah, you're considered
Lesser.
Yeah, so to survive, like my parents, so they're actually the Kwans from Korea, but they survive because they take a Japanese surname. Haruyama was our last name, and then my mother's Korean name is Sulja Kwan, but she then assumed Yuki Haruyama, her brother Maritaka. Yeah, Japanese names. And so we lived under the pretense of being Japanese. My mother didn't realize that she wasn't Japanese until because she was born in Japan. And then again, the family living under this pretense, she didn't realize that she was Japanese until she applied to go to university and was denied because she's ethnically Korean.
At what age was she when this is like?
So like 17.
So she realizes, or says realizes, but who's telling her? Like the person at the registrar is like, let me see your records.
Denial of being able to go to university because you're Korean. And her whole world just smashed because living under the pretense of being Japanese, she adopted the same prejudices of the Japanese against the Koreans. And now she's realizing, what the heck, man? I'm Korean.
Is it? I mean, now it's maybe laughable. I mean, it's the wrong term, but I mean, she had been indoctrinated by the oppressor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How was that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I heard she was very verbal about her prejudice. I grew up, where she's like, oh, those Korean women are fat. The Korean women smell, or they're lazy. They move so slow, Yeah.
And then she's looking in the mirror like, wait, that's...
And then I remember my stepfather would always like, no, I think like Korean women are the most beautiful. And I was like, now I get it, right?
How did that affect him? It didn't, nothing.
No, he's 10 years younger.
Okay.
Yeah, so my mom had some maturity on him. She basically, she met my stepfather and they got married and, 10 years younger. And it was basically like, oh, he's a nice young man and I can mold him into being a good man and get him educated and, and be a good father. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any stories of experiencing racism either as a child who still thinks they're Japanese, but seeing their mom go through this maybe existential crisis or identity crisis? Like, what was your point of view as a child watching mom find out?
Well, so I didn't know that she had this secret because she continued to live, and she doesn't speak Korean, she speaks Japanese. but the thing is, she cooks and eats Korean, right? She always said like Japanese, oh, it's so sweet, you know, they don't have any spices. So yeah, so I didn't realize that she was Korean until I was 17. And at 17, my you know, the three of us, or the four of us, you know, we're very tight family of immigrants in the way we live in community, and, you know, yeah, really lot of family strength. But when I was 17, my dad and I just got like, yeah, like at the dinner table was just like crazy, button heads, debating about political issues. He was a staunch Republican, and I was, before I even know about politics or a Democrat or Republican, I don't know, but I was definitely not a Republican. And so we had lots of debates and issues and arguments that really like really kind of became this dark energy in the house. And I have very little tolerance for bad energy. Like I always say, you'll never find me where I don't want to be. And so I ran away from home at 17.
Okay.
So, and I came back home to ask for my birth certificate and such so I can get a passport and I can start traveling. And they're like, you don't have any papers. So, yeah, and you're not Japanese, you're Korean. And that's not your father.
Just all at once.
All at once.
All at once. This is your bundle package. You want to run away, take this baggage with you.
Yeah.
And you what? How was your reaction?
Yeah, and I was like, I remember like walking up the stairs in my room, like give myself a minute to like think about this and kind of absorb this information. And I remember my dad coming up, and he was just the best father. But I remember him coming up and, you know, he's like, you know, I love you as my, and I'm like, yeah, you don't have to tell me, I know it. Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, I'm always like, I'm Korean. I embraced it. And so my mother still is saying she's Japanese, and Steven's like, you know, they're at like, my parents were always entertaining and stuff, and, you know, parties, and they'd go up to Steven and they go, how come like your wife says she's Korean, and then, but her mother says like she's Japanese, and he's like, oh, it's a long story. But yeah, my mom, she's like, when she told me, she's like, and shh, don't tell anybody. Shh. Right?
Keep the lie going.
Keep the lie going.
Well, this is also now you're in the Bay Area, Oakland, or where are we?
We landed in the Oakland Air Force Base, yeah, where they were receiving, after the 1965 Immigration Act, they were receiving Asian people at the Oakland Air Force Base. And then we migrated so we drove to my father's hometown. That's where we're going to settle, in Lovelock, Nevada, which is about in the high Sierra Desert, like 2 hours from Reno. Okay. So we drove.
Okay. So you're basically moving from Japan to America.
Yeah.
And then how did the racism change from your point of view? Like now you're in America as a kid, because now you're seeing more black people than in Japan. So
where we went to Lovelock, Nevada, my father's hometown. So it's like a population of 800 then. And there's no black people. And it's like a little cowboy town. And the only Japanese family, the Takanakas, that own the laundry.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Takanakas, and yeah, they were just a saving grace for my mother and I, you know, with the transition. It was very difficult coming to the States. And then like we're in a food desert. My mother was sick all the time and stuff, because we grew up in the country and we foraged from the sea, from the mountains, bamboo, fennel fern. We ate like that. My snacks are dried seaweed and, you know, and dried squid, you know.
Natto beans.
And we eat healthy, you know. And then we're in this American, you know, like food desert. And so my mom, Yeah. So they were a saving grace. And so we would have to drive all the way to Sacramento to get any kind of like Asian food. So you would like just stock up
Right,
on
right,
all this
right.
stuff.
That was the Costco run
Yeah.
of your time.
Yeah.
How was your mom's transition then?
My mom. So really, really difficult, really difficult. So we arrived and she was very hurt, I think, and upset because she so wanted like a family, right? Because she lost all her family except for her brother, right, to North Korea. She always wanted it's like a family, and the culture, the Asian culture of like family and community and really looking out for each other. And arriving here, then she experiences American family culture, which is completely different. And she had a really difficult time, like that my father's parents were American, white American, just don't have that kind of community, village, family-ness to it, right? And so that like really, really hurt her. And so, and then like shortly after arriving, then we get an airmail. It used to be airmail those days, and from Japan, it's like epic, right? It's like a book, right? Because, we can't afford to talk on the phone. And like when we leave Japan, right, it's like we're going to Mars. Back in the day, people didn't fly around. It's like people that migrated on ships from Europe, they're never going to see those people again, right? So it's that feeling. You're never like going to see those people again. So they would communicate through this airmail. And my mom got this big airmail package one day, and it was my parents, or my mother and brother's close friend, Masato. My uncle had drowned in the ocean, and they were so close, my mother and him, right? So.
Wow. So already feeling isolated in a different continent across the ocean, a world away, getting this form of communication about someone who she hangs on to, she must have felt even more isolated. I mean, I know we're on an island in the middle of the ocean now, but the feeling for her must have just been devastating. And then, I mean, how are you kind of observing your mom? And I know you then become a mom, but how was that for you? Like,
well, I think that I became my mother's kind of emotional caretaker at that young age because she was just going through so much. At the same time, she becomes pregnant. And, they're very much looking forward to this child, and I am as well. And so when she goes into labor, the doctor, she has a very traumatic birth. The doctor should have given her a cesarean, but Brian was left in the birth canal too long without oxygen. And so he was born blind and had brain injuries. He couldn't eat. He had to eat, through IVs. And so, watching my parents go through a very long period of time of, grieving for their child, because he didn't die until he was 10 months old. So he lived in intensive care in a hospital in Lovelock, Nevada. So there's no other children in their ward, right? It's just this little town. And so I remember we would go visit him, of course, daily, right? And my mother would open the door and could hear him, crying down the hall. And it would just break her heart, and she'd come and has a wet diaper, nobody's taking care of him. He's been given no love, no holding, no anything, right? And I remember we used to take him out to the patio, and the sun, you just saw joy. He's blind, right? So you don't know what his senses and things, but the sun would just, bring joy on his face. I so distinctly remember that. But so when he was 10 months old, he got a cold or something, and a fever got out of control, reaching like 105, and then he perished.
10 months old?
Yeah.
Never left the ICU?
No. My mother did try to bring him home because, of course, she wants him home. They brought him home. I remember the ambulance bringing him. And my mother, after about the third night, they told me, they're like, they're going to pick Brian back up and take him to the hospital because he would have a hard time breathing and things. And like my mother in the middle of the night, like hearing him gurgling, she got so stressed and, and no sleep and stuff, she couldn't care for him. And it was just taking such a toll mentally and physically on her. Yeah.
Wow, it seems like there's just sometimes or some people's life stories where it feels like a test. And I'm just imagining the kind of resilience that was needed to get through these things at that time with the support system and people around. And they say, there's all kinds of cliches, pressure makes diamonds and stuff like that. But the unseen part of stressors like these unfathomable, a lot of people can't even relate to these kinds of situations, especially if you're not a parent or you've never moved across an ocean, things like that. But I think deep down, what you're sharing is, it does help people who have their own burdens in a way that is therapeutic. I don't think it's a coincidence that we are here at the sanctuary-like location, and the way you can share these very personal, very traumatic stories in a way that almost feels healing. I just want to say thank you for that. And also, if you don't mind, that does lead into a couple of things. First, let me just take a topic detour because there are heavy stories to be had. Let's just kind of lighten it real quick. I want to say we are somewhere around here. Can you point to where we are right now? And then...
Moloa'a.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moloa'a.
So we are on this island. It's the...
Moloa'a means twisted roots.
Twisted roots.
Twisted roots.
Oh, roots.
Roots.
Talking about roots and identity.
There's
intertwined.
There's so much spirit out there, and why they call it like twisted roots. Yeah. It's pretty profound. People, what I found when I arrived here, there's a lot of kooky people. It was like crazy people.
What is Moloa'a?
Moloa'a.
Moloa'a.
A lot of kooky people.
Who's in Moloa'a?
Not brown people.
Okay.
Not Hawaiian people, white people.
Okay.
Kooky people.
Yeah.
I think that Kauai, that drew like a lot of people needing nature and healing and escape, and whether you're veteran with PTSD or you have addiction, or and people were like drawn to here, like to try to heal and stuff. And but then you just had a lot of loose kookies.
But you've been here, what, 20-something
20 years.
So what's the kookiest kook story you got?
Well, there used to be like in the valley here, like these people felt entitled to just like come up on your property because it's a shortcut to the beach, chop down, a couple of coconuts along the way, take the mangoes, however many they want. At one point I said, can you just leave me some mangoes? And then it's, yeah, it was like the wild, wild west here, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Like
it was like,
I know it's also like giving billionaire playground vibes, and there are literally.
Yeah. So this was, it has that now, but I'm talking about before then, before
Okay.
we have my new neighbor, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even before that era,
Yeah.
I mean, I since we're there, we've been here, and we came yesterday morning. We went out to Hanalei. Was it something hut?
Tahiti Nui.
Tahiti Nui, and met a bunch of locals there. And right away they were like, "Oh, these guys from Oahu." Yeah, okay, the cat's out the bag. But then just cruising, talking with them. One woman in particular was like very aggressively inquiring as to our purpose and reason here. And Amy handled that very nicely, or very straightforward, right? Unapologetically, like, this is who we are, is what we're doing. So when she's like, "Wait, you're at Moloa'a?" And she, right after she knew that, she's like, "You gotta do a documentary on the wolfers and all the human rights violations." And then that bled into the Pfluger Dam talk.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't bring my cameras and mics, guys. Like, we're not doing that now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what she's talking about. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, there's obviously, and then we got invited to this restoration project down the road. She's like, no, if you're telling stories here, you gotta come back and tell this one. You gotta come back and tell this one. And some of them knew the story of Saui and the salt beds in Hanapepe that we just released a few weeks ago. So, oh yeah, that's you guys, but you guys gotta tell. Basically, a bunch of locals were like, "There's this story, there's this story, there's this story, there's this story." We're grateful for that opportunity and that invitation of like, if you have any kind of platform or storytelling capability, this is the story that needs to be told. Great. We didn't sign up to be that sort of journalistic outlet, but kind of naturally, as it progresses, we're kind of receiving that energy. And this is one place that has a lot of stories I'm sure we can't get through in one sitting. So thank you for sharing that one. Before we get back into a bit of your identity piece, I did want to ask just, what are we sitting in? Because I wanted to sit in these chairs for this. Can you explain these two pieces of furniture before Taisei's part? He's going to go into a lot more about this house. But with these two chairs that we're sitting on, can you kind of...
So this is from a line of furnishings that's made in Australia and Tahiti area where they have regenerative coconut farms. So the name, the Palmwood, was because I furnished it in palmwood. It's all made out of coconut wood. This is all coconut wood. So they take from the farmer the coconut tree that's senile, no longer fruit bearing, which is about 30, 40 years. And they replace it with a new coconut tree for the farmer to plant and grow. So yeah, it's all sustainable. Always it's leather. And they didn't kill the cows. They just took the skins off the already slaughtered cows for the meat. So they're pretty sustainable, and so depending on the artist that's making the particular line, you can see like the various influences in whatever ethnicity they are. Yeah.
That's the first thing that struck both me and my brother walking in here was the intentionality. There's just original art, furniture, and thought that goes into all of this. So that's why I wanted to kind of take a little lighthearted break, hard detour from the deeper conversations that can be had here. I did want to kind of get to this story you shared with us about your first pregnancy. That blew my mind because our mother also shared a story and stories as we age, as my brother and I both age as parents we're parents, and now we're talking to our parent. Our father's passed, but my mom starts sharing stories with us that she didn't necessarily share with us before, and one of them was her version of what you shared with us earlier. Do you mind walking us through that experience?
So, as I said, I ran away from home at 17, definitely ill-prepared and extremely naive. And I met a man that was 12 years older than me in a club that I shouldn't have been in. He was a black man, and we had just really amazing conversations. You know, like I said, how my parents and I, and the reason why we were so divided politically and like social justice and things like that. And so here, like, I'm talking to this very, you know, about all these subject matters that are so important to me, and I'm able to talk to and receive information from a liberal black man. And so, yeah, so we just like connected. And so within that year, so I was pregnant at 18. And so when I left home, I stayed completely estranged from my parents, which was difficult because we were very, very close, but strange. So, and I was waiting tables, trying to make a living, put food on the table, and expecting this child. And my mother, unbeknownst to me, had, sent out detectives to find me. So I'm waiting tables, and here comes my mom in the door. And she sees, I got a bump. And then typical my mom, she has a watch for me because she's like, you don't have a watch. People without a watch, you don't know what time it is, you're stupid. So, so she has a watch for me.
As she's coming with her detectives that found you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so now I'm back in the grasp of my parents and their influences, and I love them very, very much. And I know they love me very, very much. But so she talked me to get into getting an abortion. And she talked to, my mom was an entrepreneur. She had hair shops, International Hairport. So she was talking to one of her stylists, like, oh, my daughter's pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, she referred her to a Kevorkian of abortionists that does latent abortions. So I don't know. I just went with it, and Tony, I don't know. He was like, what the heck's going on? But I just went with it. And so my dad dropped me off. And what it was is, it was like after the Watts riots, and everything, the whole neighborhood was just like desolate. Like everything was boarded up. There was no businesses, and, except for there was this like 1920s California bungalow, this little white house with the white picket fence. And my dad dropped me off, didn't even see me into the house, took off. And I walk into this place, and from the front door, all the walls around the living room, into the kitchen, are all of these young women, like leaning up against the wall. There's so many. And they have Dixie cups because it's a latent abortion, you have to induce labor. So they're drinking whatever the solution is to induce labor. This doctor, really saved my life, though, and Michael's life. He was legit. So he examined me, and he's like, do you know how far along you are? And I'm like, I have no idea. Maybe 3 months, 4 months. So he did a sonogram where they measure the circumference of the head to determine the age. And he's like, I can't do this. He's like, your son's like 7 months. And I'm like, ooh. So I just kind of I remember like just kind of floating out the house. Like I can't really feel the ground on my feet and kind of like, okay. And then it's like, I need my dad to pick me up. And I'm like, there's nothing there. I walk about a mile to a truck stop that had a phone booth. And I called my mom at work and I said, the doctor said I'm too far along. I'm about 7 months old. No can do, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't 3 seconds. And she's like, don't worry about it. I thought I was like in the clear, right? Don't worry about it. We'll put him up for adoption.
As if she had thought of plan B.
I'm like, oh God. So I put him up for adoption.
So your mom was against having this child, period?
Yeah.
Abortion,
I used
adoption.
to say my parents were racist, but no, I learned they're only anti-Black.
Okay, wait, time out.
It's not an across-the-board racism. It's only anti-Black, specifically anti-Black. They love themselves some Mexicans. They think they're wonderful people, hardworking. It's only Black people.
Wait. And so because the child's father was Black,
yes,
she was like,
yeah,
abortion.
And this is my father that we would get into debates with because he's pro-life and I'm pro-choice, right? And he's Catholic.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, but now when it comes, right, it's so typical. When it comes to you, it's a different story.
Pro-life except asterisk. Wow. Okay. See, so both your mom and stepfather were like, I mean, he was there to drop you off.
Yeah.
They knew the plan. They were like, no, you're not having that child. Okay.
Yeah.
So she says, you tell your mom the news, and then what?
Yeah. So they said put him up for adoption. So I did. I put him up for adoption, went to the Children's Home Society in Santa Ana, which I used to work at. And yeah, so I went through the whole pregnancy and really like not having a baby shower, of course, like just no recognition of the fact that I'm with a child. And a complete, like I had to like disconnect. I made sure that I was healthy and making sure he was physically healthy. But yeah, there was certainly no celebration or recognition of him.
Because it's a Black baby.
Because it's a Black baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you go through this. Now you have to deliver this child, this Black baby. Mm-hmm. What was that? And you're 18 and this is your first child.
Mm-hmm. I just turned 19 when I went into labor on Thanksgiving. I'm born in October. Michael's born in November. So I just turned 19. Because I remember that going, it sounds a little better to say 19 instead of 18.
By a day or?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I had him at 19. So yeah, I went into labor on Thanksgiving morning and 1979. And like my mother, I had a very difficult birth. He was not coming out, just like my brother. And so 2 days goes by, 3 days goes by of labor. And then the doctor broke the water, which is the protection, right, for the baby, to try to get me to induce the labor. But then another, like a couple days went by. So without that water protection, right, the baby in the womb is like in a dry, with, who knows, antibacterials, diseases, everything, right? There's no protection. So I think I was like 5 days in labor, and they typically, like after 24 hours of that kind of, they would have given me a cesarean, but because he's up for adoption, the doctor doesn't like to give cesarean leaving a scar that the mother could remember the child by. So they didn't give me cesarean, and in the adoption agency, it didn't cover cesarean. The Medi-Cal didn't cover the cesarean. So, but finally they're like, we got to take the baby out. And so they wheel me in the gurney. They give me a saddle block, which paralyzes you from the waist down. And they're like literally with forceps just pulling on his head. And I'm like scooting off the gurney. and I'm blindfolded because he's up for adoption and they don't want you to connect with the child. So I'm having this, he's under this traumatic birth and he doesn't cry. I'm blindfolded. I don't know what's going on. I just can hear that they're trying to resuscitate him. And finally, he lets out a cry and they like put him in the, and got him to, they're going to fly him out by helicopter to UCLA to neonatal intensive care. So, and then they put me upstairs, and before they fly him out, they said, do you want to see him? So that was like the first, and I said, yes, I want to see him.
Was that a personal decision by one of the healthcare professionals? Sort of, they know the procedure is different for,
yes,
but they said,
yes.
So they broke the rules for you?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And you took that opportunity?
Yes.
And then what?
Yeah. So they wheeled him in this incubator thing, right, which you typically see little babies in, right? And he was laying on his stomach, on his elbows, lifted up his head, and looked around like this. And I'm like, oh my God, he's like E.T. Like babies are not, newborns do not do that. They cannot lift their heads up, right? But he just like, And then they, helicoptered him out, and then I escaped the hospital the next day without telling my parents or telling the adoption agency and stuff and then I went to UCLA to feed him.
Wait, time out. So you spent almost 5 days in labor, and the next day you escaped the hospital, got on a train, plane, I don't know.
A car
ride.
with their father, yeah. Yeah.
So he was there. He was for the
he
whole
was
5
there.
days.
He was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so mind-blowing facts all over the place. I didn't know there was a different procedure for an adoption delivery. Yeah. I wonder how it's changed over time. That to me seems inhumane.
It is.
Like everything you said, the blindfolding part,
it is.
It almost feels like a mother's right.
Yes.
I'm not a woman. I'm not trying to say what's.
Yes.
But.
Yeah.
Good thing that one doctor let you see him.
Yes, I know. And, so here he is up for adoption. I haven't signed any papers to say, no, we're not going to do this. I'm canceling this, right? So that night, so Michael's, helicoptered out. And then that night, I wake up to a ton of nurses surrounding me and working on me. Little did I know that I went into toxic shock and my blood pressure just dropped and I was like heading into a coma. And so they were like working on me, resuscitating, the bells and whistles went on. I just like woke up, came to this, and so because the doctor didn't make sure that the afterbirth was all released, so I went into toxic shock. And I'm like, oh my God, like I could have like lost my life, and Michael could have been, the adoption goes through. Yeah. So
you end up, you do it, put him up for adoption, or you
So no, I escaped from the hospital, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Was it that moment of seeing him?
It was that moment of seeing E.T. It was that moment, right? Well, and it's also the moment. It was really when I delivered him that I immediately felt that profound motherly instinct to, help your child. I mean, my child is not even breathing, so it was then that I'm like, no, like,
this is
I know
Yeah.
I'm keeping him.
And so in that moment, you do a couple of things. You activate, kickstart, however you want to say, your motherly instinct, while simultaneously sort of defying your mother's instinct of no baby, no black baby.
Yeah.
So
it took my parents, it took my mother until Michael was 6 months old before she called me and said, okay, bring him over. Yeah, he was 6 months old.
and what, she still love on him, or right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody love black
Yeah.
babies, come on.
Yeah.
Like
He loved, yes. My parents were amazing grandparents to the boys. And then, and Steven too, which, yeah.
I guess that's a message to anyone out there who's going into parenthood and they're facing friction with their parents. Once they see that baby, there's a power of a baby that will challenge even the most stubborn 60, 70-year-old mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we never know until we're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm speaking as a man. I understand, like, I can't connect the way you did,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you think that affected Michael? Your son.
Michael, my oldest one, and then Marcus is close to they're about 4 years difference. And so their biological father took his life when Michael was 5 and Marcus was 2. So Marcus, from the age of 13, became addicted to drugs, and then everything that went along with it. Life, living in the streets, him being criminalized, being a young black man. He definitely had a different experience from his peers that just went to treatment centers and such. And, he being black, a young black boy, was, criminalized for his. So it was a very torturous 20 years of that. And Michael, I always said, is like my no maintenance son. Like, I've never even had to raise my voice to him, But when Michael was about 20, in his 20s, and he was living up in San Francisco, and he had a girlfriend, a white girlfriend, and they broke up. I remember driving through Kauai as he's calling me, explaining to me the situation, and I started listening to some of the things he was saying. Like, he was so wanting to know. She basically just ghosted him, but so him not knowing what happened or what he did or didn't do or whatever was just, and the things he was saying. And then I was like, I pulled over and I says, Michael, I think I'm hearing like something else is going on. Like, I could hear there were abandonment issues. And so I deep dive into research about abandonment issues and things like that. And so they describe that, so Michael was 5, so with the loss of his father, which he was so close with, Tony comes in the door from work, and Michael's running for the door, and Tony's like, where's my best buddy? And they're rolling, wrestling on the floor. He took him everywhere. They were so close. So they say, and then losing his father was so sudden. So they say that a child not knowing how to deal with those emotions, kind of put it on a shelf and like close the door, right? And then something gets triggered, an experience like a breakup, right? Or somebody leaving you, and then it's triggered, and then those issues start to come up. So yeah, and I had him go to a therapist and do some work on abandonment issues.
Do you think, now we're talking about what, he's 20-ish or something, it's what, the late 80s, late 90s? Because what resources did he have? Like, what resources, let's just compare what the resources a young black man with abandonment issues had during his time and today. Like, what kind of trends, if any, do you see that are helpful in that kind of support for this for this community?
There was, back then, right, there's no internet. So anything like I had, like wanted to learn about, like whether it be addiction or whatever, everything came through, you somehow have found like a foundation or organization, and then you would like subscribe to their newsletter. So getting any kind of, back then, the only thing about like child psychology or child rearing or their health was Dr. Spock.
Is that like an actual printed?
A book, yeah. He was actual doctor, Dr. Spock. I mean, there was no information. Like, for example, back then, so I was on Medi-Cal when the boys were born. And I remember them coming and saying, oh, it's going to be $50 extra for circumcision. So I'm like, I don't have $50. And then I'm like, you're doing what? Circumcision. And then it's like, so I started like deep diving, trying to get find information, like why are they cutting off the skin around the penis? I don't understand. Then it's like, oh, it's a religious thing. And I'm like, but we're not that religion. I'm like, I don't understand. And across the board, all these Americans, no matter what religion, get circumcised.
Snip.
It's so crazy, right?
Yes.
And so I found like an organization about that information, and they'd like explain like, hey, no, that skin's really important. It protects from the acid, the urine in the diaper. It protects from zippers, and it's false about, oh, they're going to get urinary. My boys have never had urinary tract infections, yeah. But yeah, so it was really difficult to get any information. It really all just like came from your parents or your grandparents about how to rear kids.
So basically whoever you talk to in real life, even the term in real life wasn't a thing, but like the people around you. And so you're basically susceptible to your 5 closest people, whoever that may be. But now though, we all are in this age of information and abundance where maybe you could argue it's the opposite. Now we don't know what to tell is true or not. Before we get into that part, I think actually Taisei is going to dive into a little bit more about what you guys are doing as far as with this place and the social enterprise that you are. We'll get into that. Food security, food safety, all these things we're getting into. I did want to ask about, we've kind of covered about racism. Give me an example of like racism in your home. It might be your mom saying get an abortion or something, but an example of racism in your home and a racism in your country. And I kind of want to hear the Japan version, racism in home in Japan, racism in Japan. And then you come to America, racism in home, and then racism in the country. Because I think you have a very unique POV.
So I think my first experience as a young child with racism is observing my mother's attitude towards Black people. And so I remember my last year before we moved to the States, I did end up living with my mother and my stepfather. And so we were on an Air Force base. We were on Yokota Air Force Base.
Okay, big one.
And so the children in my classroom were American white children. And except for one, next door was one Black family that I played with often, had the best time with. And I think they were like mixed Black children. They were like, had freckles and kind of orangish complexion and hair. And I just thought they were beautiful. And my mother said, stop playing with those children. She goes, look at what they did to them. They created monsters. So my mother, my mother was so interesting how she was about mixing, right? But when her husbands are white, her husband is white, you know, and yeah. But so like a lot of Asian people, they adopted the white culture of racism and anti-blackness, because then they think that they're like there's a lot of Asian women that marry white men because then they're marrying into those white privileges.
Believe me, I know. I see.
So they get the benefits.
There's a big, for those who don't know or maybe feel on the outside of Asian culture, speaking as an Asian, half Asian, lived in Asia many years, status is a real thing. Status. And even if there's not an obvious caste system that we learn about in history in India and all this stuff, there's a caste system, an invisible caste system.
Yeah.
And a country that is as homogeneous as Japan, 90-something%. Now that's questionable to me because maybe your mom was in at 90 and then she found out she's not. So there's a lot of fudging those numbers, whatever the case. There's racism in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot, especially now with the yen dollar rate and how easy it is to travel there, people have this romanticized view of Japan. Temples, Mount Fuji, cool bullet trains.
And they describe their experiences. They're so kind and they're so polite and they're, you know, like they're kind to me. And I'm like, they don't like you.
That's why I'm so glad I grew up. I stayed my whole 8 years in Japan in Kansai, because Kansai is a little bit more generally like closer to American culture in that what we think we say up front, whereas other parts of Japan can be very safe face. So we preserve the facade in our relationship, at our job, and almost everything. There's a standard normal that we all know, whether it's the language, but oftentimes more times than not, it's behavior, habits, cultural, things like that. And so there is this effort put into preserving the facade.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times it happens to people in the home with parents, children, boyfriend, girlfriends. There's a preserving of this facade. And as long as we both invest in this and facilitate this, when we're not there, it's completely different. And racism is just one of these things that on the surface, we preserve this image, but really, at least your mom, I think it's better, like, put it out there. Let people know. I'm not saying like just be racist if you're racist, but in a way I'm kind of saying like be racist if you're racist. Yeah. Put it on Front Street and everybody doesn't have to guess as much. So I just want to offer that point of view.
Yeah,
Japan is not, it's amazing, yes, but let's
look at their history.
Oh.
I mean, they're the ultimate colonizers.
You talk about colonizers. I was talking with Steven yesterday about colonizing and the map.
Yeah.
And now instead of countries, it's corporations. But the map of Japan's imperial impact on the world, I mean, we're not saying anything new here, but...
You know, my mother, living under the pretense of being Japanese and, again, having adopted their prejudices, very much, like you said, a caste system. Even the color of your skin, right? So I remember we lived in Ohio at one point in Cleveland, and I was at the public pool, and my mother came looking for me because we had to run an errand. She's looking and looking. She doesn't see me, right? Except she sees like what she thinks like, what's that little black kid doing over there? Because I get real dark real fast. And then I'm like, Mom, we're here. Da, da, da. I mean, she was so angry. She's like, you look black.
You got scolded for being in the sun.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And two, a darker skin means like you're a lower class, you're a farmer out in the sun, right? And then they, you know, Japanese women or Japanese people very much value pure white skin. Indian people do. They're bleaching their skin and stuff.
I was just gonna bring up the cosmetic industry. Those numbers will tell us all we need to know about skin lightening, bleaching, just cosmetics, women's cosmetics. And I don't know how it crosses the gap between genders. Like, are Asian women specifically more concerned about tone than Asian men? I mean, that's just an interesting thing for me because I don't know as a man and as a, you know, mixed ethical, you know, my brother and I are black Japanese.
I think women across many cultures still like want to depict that Snow White look, that purity of white skin.
Why does, like, for the reason you mentioned about, well, I don't need to be out laboring. I knew, so side story, the only Japanese guy I knew who was darker than me in Japan was a rice farmer. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Who invited us to his farm, and we had
amazing. And Koreans are typically darker. So that's kind of a giveaway too. It's like, hey, don't.
What are the giveaways for finding out if a person in Japan who's got a Japanese name and is saying, I'm born and raised in Japan, but is Korean? Are there kind of like, beside what, darker? Darker. The language is perfect.
Darker, right? Unless you're Okinawan. But yeah, darker.
And the names? No?
No.
Wow.
No, because they totally take Japanese surnames. And yeah, and other than, and they're just never going to admit it.
So before Taisei comes on, I did want to sort of transition into your identity. We've covered parts of your identity, right? And that's somewhat looking in the past. But here we are meeting in 2025, this beautiful place that you and Steven have put together. And so I kind of want to lead into that. How we've talked about your first experience with racism, or your first childbirth experience, but what about your first sort of taste of freedom? And when I say freedom, I'm saying it from the sense of you have the financial freedom, if you will, to go on social enterprises and do things that, as Steven said, it's like, it's not so much the investment piece as it is the lifestyle piece. And so to me, that's a form of freedom of, I can do this because I want to, I feel I need to, I'm driven to, and I am going to do it. So how do you get to that place where you can just drive where you want, how you want, do what you want?
Yeah, so I think that I did that, you know, the seeking that freedom in 2004. So then I was well into like 25th year in my career of mortgage banking and investment. At the time I was with Wells Fargo. And one evening they had a recognition dinner for my accomplishments, and the next day I sent in my resignation letter. And I remember pulling off to the side of the road after the dinner and calling my manager and said, yeah, I'm going to send in my resignation letter. I can't do this anymore. I've got a son that's living in the streets. And I'm working this very capitalistic, industry, and nothing's making sense to me anymore. And so I set out to create a sanctuary or haven for me and the healing that I needed. And but I mean, even back then, it's, so we've always been a dual income household. And so, I have to also think about replacing a 6-figure income, then. But then how am I going to do that? And nature and blah, blah. So, yeah, I decided to found the Palmwood. It's fashioned after the ryokans in the countrysides in Japan. I say that because I feel like I'm unlike a Western style bed and breakfast. I don't host that way. I'm more very much like a ryokan. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I set out to do that, and also the plan was in creating this bed and breakfast that it would be the core business for this social enterprise that I'm trying to create. So when I say social enterprise, meaning that we're not a nonprofit, but basically when I pay the bills, we give the rest of it away. And we support the organizations and the foundations that's really doing the hard work, the activists that are on the front lines. I realize that the best way for me to be part of this community and warrior of social justice was to support these young people that are already on the front lines doing the hard work. So when I say support these people, I support them with giving them a connection to nature, to, get rejuvenated, get healed.
We're at 5,206 subscribers right now, and we got here organically, 2 brothers in Hawaii doing our thing. If you have access to resources, connections, infrastructure, capital, and most importantly, belief in what we're doing, and you want to see this channel grow without turning it into something fake or contrived, visit our website, fill out our Connect form. We read every submission, and if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode.
In February, we have our social justice retreats for the whole Black History Month. And we have our team of activists and friends and folks out here and just get connected. And we also invite, so during the pandemic, we were closed for 2 years. And I got the idea that I'm going to start, my resistance was going to include joy and celebration, which when you're constantly, it's a grind, and it takes a toll. And what happened is I was reading an article by this woman, Avriel Epps, and her husband, who's an attorney, kind of like a Lincoln attorney. And the article was about them getting married, and they were having really a hard time, like even having a wedding or any kind of celebration given the state of the world. And at that time they were putting kids in cages, the immigrants, this is Trump's first term. And so they were just like, but she talked about, she's actually Dr. Epps, she's a Harvard graduate. And she talked about, but we have to remind ourselves to celebrate and have joy. And that really resonated with me, that was what started the beginning of these social justice retreats that I would have.
I'm gonna read some headlines to you, and I want you to dive in and unpack the story behind that, and then we're gonna have Taisei come on.
Okay.
So here's some headlines. Paralyzed by police. I raged, but now I urge others to wear the badge. What it's like to survive being shot by the police. Leon Ford talks new memoir. Leon Ford was shot by police. Now he's their partner. Explain to me the connection there.
Leon Ford. So we were closed for 2 years during the pandemic, which then Steven took that time to build what was my breakfast pavilion into the bungalow. And so I asked Steven to please make it all wheelchair accessible. Because when I decided to reach out to mothers that had children that were either murdered or brutalized by the police or the justice system, to come out here and heal. And so the first person was Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina. Yeah, that was really hard. That was really hard. She wasn't able to come, but we made the connection. And then the second person that I reached out to is I saw on Instagram Leon Ford talking to a therapist about what had happened to him. And it really resonated with me, Leon in particular, because in talking to the therapist pointed out to me, she's like, Leon, do you realize you haven't breathed in? She's like, breathe, you know? And I was like, yes, I haven't been breathing. I've been just holding, you know, and I was like, the whole thing like resonated with me. And then I started looking into his story, and I just reached out to him and his mother, and I said, please come to the Palmwood. And so they did, his sister, Leon, his mother. And so interesting, they shared with me. So they also lost his sister at 10 years old, I think by some truck driver or something, some freight truck or something hit her. And they shared with me that they brought her ashes because she was really into journaling. And the last entry in her journal said, I want to go to Hawaii. So they brought her ashes. So I had the social justice retreats here, had a luau, amazing, you know, yeah. So yeah, he came out here, and he talked to Steven in the garden, and their conversation led him to, when he returned home, to reach out to the officer that shot him.
Because now they're working together.
And now they're working together, yeah.
Wow, so you built this place, and that is one of the intended outcomes of this place, is people leave here, rebuilt, rejuvenated, and re-energized.
So years ago, so before he came out, I would see these numbers, 1111.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a woo-wah person, right? So I'm like, what's going on here? And then so like, I'm like, I'm going to actually document, like every time I see it, take a picture of it so that I know I'm not exaggerating in my mind the frequency. And yeah, it became a thing with Steven and I, 1111, 1111, you know, everywhere, 1111. But not until Leon left here did I realize he was shot on 11/11, because I saw that Pittsburgh was honoring him, and 11/11 is Leon Ford Day. You know, when he was shot and they didn't let his mother see him, they have him handcuffed to the bed. I mean, he's like literally dying, and they have him handcuffed, right? On the floor above, his son was being born the same day. So his son's birthday is 11/11 too.
So Leon's son's birthday, who was being born in the same hospital that he's in, because he got gunshot wound.
Yeah, I get chicken skin every time.
And he's handcuffed with a gunshot wound while his son is being
5
delivered.
times in the spine.
Wow. Well, if that doesn't speak to the kind of healing energy that you're putting out there into the world, I don't know what does. I'm going to get out of here and let Taisei come in here. Thank you so much, Eddi. Stay tuned.
The Palmwood Bed and Breakfast, nestled in the mountainous region of northeast Kauai, Can you please show me where we are and the significance of this area?
Right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Almost on the coast, right? Right over the mountain ridge.
Yes.
So what is the significance, the historic significance of this place?
Well, you know, like I said, I abruptly resigned from my industry to go find my nature to heal and establish a bed and breakfast. And so that took me kind of on a global search for 2 years. So on the East Coast and the Caribbean and Costa Rica, Mexico, you know, just everywhere. And I had my eye on Kauai because I had been here once before in my early 30s. I tagged along with Steven. He had a business here. And before that, I would never, like, I had no desire to go to Hawaii because Southern California, I'm like, yeah, beaches, whatever. Like, I just stay here. You know, so like Honolulu doesn't do so much for me, right? And that's, I pictured it all like that. But when I came here, I was like, oh, wow. So immediately it reminded me where I was born in Japan, which is Shikoku, was a southern island. It very much looks like this. So I was here, and, you know, in my career, I've never been on vacation. I never have days off. You know, I may be at a vacation destination, but I'm always working. And I remember we were going to, well, first of all, we would camp out because I'm not a resort hotel person, obviously. I mean, I established not like that, right? So we would camp out and stuff, and we were in Waimea Canyon, and I'm on the old kind of big cell phone back then, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't get a connection, and I was like putting out some fire at the office, and I'm just like, oh my God, I had to succumb to it, and I stopped working for the first time because I was forced to. And it was the first time in my life I ever felt like I actually decompressed and I could breathe. And yeah, so I recalled that feeling. And so had my sights on this, but did my due diligence for other areas and stuff, and then circle back here, made my final decision. Still, when I made my final decision, this is the place. It took me about a year to find just the right place. And then, yeah, this was newly built by some developers in San Francisco. I came up the driveway and I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. It had the right feeling. It had privacy. Plus, you know, I'm being very cognizant, knowing I'm going to have a bed and breakfast, not to interfere with any neighbors or, you know, so we're on 5 acres. So we have a lot of privacy and, yeah. But, you know, what they did is they just scraped this hill. So when I arrived, it didn't look anything like this. It was like red clay. This used to be all pineapple farms, red clay dirt. And they took off the topsoil. Nothing was growing. And it's just like, and the wind would come and it's just like, oh my God. So first thing I did was put the bamboo windbreak, and basically everything you see is me I've always been a landscaper. My mother's an avid landscaper. And I learned a different way of landscaping, which is required here, is you got to work with the jungle. You got to work with it. You can't impose your own will, like, oh, I would like a English rose garden.
No, that's very stoic, right? Living in agreement with nature, right? And listening to what this area needs. It's almost, and it also, this gives me feng shui energy, the flow of the architecture and the way that things are positioned. it doesn't feel like blockage. And I don't know if you based anything off of feng shui, but I'm sure there are other forms of feng shui in different cultures. You actually
Feng shui, very much so, yeah. It's been in my culture and the way I live and make my surroundings, and as well as wabi-sabi.
okay, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and really appreciating the imperfections in things. So, I like those imperfections. I like, how nature, has those imperfections. I don't get any feeling from, cookie cutter manufactured
Yes.
perfect things.
Yeah, I get that from you. You have a calm, balanced, and like I said, stoic disposition. And your demeanor, your presence radiates this calming energy. And I'm wondering if you can explain where that came from.
It comes from being here, for sure. Before arriving here, well, and for a long time here, I was very much ran on urgency. Everything was urgent. My career was urgent. Trying to save my son Marcus's life every day was urgent. So a lot of urgency, which I thought was actually a superpower. In the wake of any kind of challenge, I get super focused, super energetic, and I was like, hey, I'm blessed with some good chemistry here, right? That in the wake of challenges, I get and super creative and stuff. But I realized that still, no matter, takes a toll on you physically.
Yes.
So what you're seeing now is work I've done to move away from that urgency, and yeah.
Okay, I also know that you split your time in 3 different places: Mexico, here in Kauai, and then also, is it Long Beach?
Long Beach.
Long Beach. So how does your energy shift in each of these 3 areas of the world?
So Long Beach has been our home for 30 years. I mean, the hospital that I returned to that community 30 years ago. And it's a very diverse, eclectic, urban community, and lots of diversity. And I need that. I need that. But it doesn't provide me a place of solace. Like, I can walk to the beach from there, but then it's like, there's all this cement, or there's, or like the smog still that is in Southern California, and you see the brown lie on the horizon, and it just, yeah. So I have to have a place like this. And then Mexico provides me with a complete, definitely with nature, because we're right on the ocean, and it's amazing the healing properties when you're by the ocean, the negative ions and things. Whew. And I like it because no matter where I am, most important to me is community. And there I'm able to make a community. Like, we looked at a home there that's like in a gated community, a lot of expats, and I'm like, that's not me. So we chose a home that's near a historic fishing village of indigenous people. It's like 200 people population, yeah. And so they're my community. Wherever I am, I have to have my community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. So, in providing a spiritual sanctuary like the Palmwood Bed and Breakfast, what is your mission? What can one expect by spending time here?
I get, I get a lot of feedback and beautiful letters and beautiful notes of appreciation from the guests, you know, in the 20 years that we've been open. And they express how they felt so much peace and then rejuvenation and, you know, and beautiful words of them sharing. And so, you know, that makes it really worthwhile. First of all, I'm blessed with, you know, my work is making breakfast for people every morning, right?
Yeah.
So you're being of service. And that creates an amazing life for me, you know, being of service, being able to reach people's palates. I mean, think of how remarkable that is, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
a stranger at that, right? But then they're like going, oh my gosh, I feel, they say, I feel your love in everything that you make, right? So in Korean, there's a saying sama, which means it's flavored with your hands,
Yes.
right? So yeah,
love is probably the more
your intentions definitely flow through the food that you prepare for people.
And I can attest that to that statement, because earlier today when I was eating your food, I said you put love into this and you can taste it. I can feel it. Nourishing people, sustenance, right? That was actually kind of brings me to my next point. Watching you in the kitchen reminds me of my uncle, who is a chef, with the same intention, the same attention to detail. And it's like something else is driving you. And that's what I kind of wanted to ask you. What does it do for you, cooking for people, and not just seeing them smile, but seeing them fully enjoy your creations?
Well, I want to spread the word that food is medicine. That's the way that I was raised. That's the way I raised my family. And I want to show our guests from all over the world, you know, that food is medicine. And I get into really in-depth conversations with people. People share with me like their ailments that they're having, mentally, physically, emotionally, and we talk about that and how food can, you know, is definitely medicine for that. But sorry, what was the question?
Well, you know what though? Food is medicine is very important, and that was actually my next question anyway. When you have an ailment or you have a disease, I heard once that it's your body telling you something. It's your body communicating with you that something's wrong. And when you said food is medicine, like the prostate thing you were talking about with pumpkin seeds, the relationship and what it provides for you, and what is absence, what are we missing in our body, and we actually get that from food.
You know, the U.S. has been propagandized by the industrialized food system, right? And people just don't know anymore what to eat, right? I'm a big proponent of folks taking a genetics test. And a good one is 3x4 genetics or 3x4 genetics. And because it tells you how your particular body, your DNA, your molecular structure responds to the environment, right? And so to understand that, I found that, and I share with a lot of our guests that I found through taking the test that I have a histamine intolerance.
Okay.
So I was like having really bad, just all kinds of health issues. I developed tremors. I had bodily pain everywhere. I have IBS. I have all this kind of stuff. And so I found out that I have a histamine intolerance. And so I had to, and what is histamine foods? It's all of my cultural foods. It's all of the foods I kept eating. Fermented foods, right? Kimchi, they're like, it's good for you. You get the prebiotics. I keep eating and eating, but those are all super high histamine foods. Korean barbecue, soy sauce,
Miso.
Anything aged, right?
Yes.
Miso, anything aged. And so...
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I was like, that's hard for me because what I learned was good for me. And now, you know, it's making me sick, my cultural foods. But I learned a lot from that. And so I really spread a lot of information in regards to that. I found out about it actually from a guest, a young, beautiful Persian cardiologist that worked with Dr. Fauci. And she's the one that said, hey, take this test. It told me so much about my body, right? And then it's always been on my mission, you know, to again, educate people and make people aware, specifically my mission to get fresh food into the jails and prisons.
Okay.
So having a son and experience that all he was able to eat in there is what I bought for him. And the only choices is ramen and beef jerky and Doritos, right?
Like our public school system as well is similar to the prison system in terms of the type of food or the lack of nutritious foods that we serve them. And I just have to mention this. Roy Yamaguchi right now is spearheading getting fresh, nutritious food to our public school kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a relationship or some parallels there as well. I want to let the people know what kind of food can they expect when they come stay here.
So we only serve breakfast.
Okay.
And they don't get a choice. I've done different formats in the 20 years. I used to do a whole spread buffet and this and that. And I tried all kinds of things. And then now I'm like just down to, you get what you get, like kind of almost like a bento kind of plate, you know, kind of like Japanese style bento kind of plate with a couple of various different things. But it's all about providing you nutrition. So, I mean, we're heavy fruit centric in the morning. Everybody should probably only have fruit in the morning. And, you know, and we keep it light because, you know, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. It's probably best if you don't eat until like noon.
Yes.
So, but fruit, you know, so many people are complain about being dehydrated. They just can't get hydrated. I hear that so much. And everybody, come on, carrying water everywhere, right? Is crazy. And it's because most people are just drinking dead water, so they're not getting the minerals, the magnesium, the zinc. They're not getting any of it. So they're walking around dehydrated. And so my motto is, you know, eat your water, get it from your fruit.
And we actually had coconut water.
From here.
From
we have
here.
the best coconut water.
Which was better than anything I've ever got packaged, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Coconut tree, I mean, come on. Everything, right? You make furniture from it, get water, the coconut oil, you building from it. It's a tree of life.
Yeah, and you know, Steven was telling us yesterday that the coconut beetle has arrived, the coconut rhinoceros beetle. We got one. You got one up here. Yeah, well, let's hope that we have, you know, a strong remedy that doesn't destroy the coconuts, the lovely coconuts that provide us with this nutrition. My next question is, what does your spiritual foundation look like? Maybe any beliefs you have on a higher power.
So when I was, let's see, 26, and my life was in absolute chaos. That's when Tony took his life. I would, I had just craziness. And my mother calls me up and says, you know, I was at Yuki sushi house. Her name's Yuki, but then there's this guy, Yuki, sushi house. And he says that a friend of his was talking to him, and she wants to meet your daughter. Mm-hmm. So my mother says, and she says she doesn't speak English, but she wants to meet your daughter. So my mother's calling me. She's like, this lady, the friend of Yuki Sushi, and she wants to come talk to you. So I go over to the house. And she's from Japan. She's just visiting. And she's a healer. And she's she's like a medium. Mm-hmm. So she said to me, she says, and my mother's translating, she says, you know, you're like think of yourself like this, you're this sphere, this round ball up in this universe, in this space. And she's like, you got so many arrows mm-hmm. that are hitting you that aren't even meant for you. So she says, so you need to just do a little shift mm-hmm. and then they're gonna go right by you. And how you're gonna make that shift, every morning, you're gonna get up and you're gonna put a glass of water on the window mm-hmm. and you're gonna thank your ancestors and you're gonna thank your parents. And she goes, I know you're at odds with your parents, but you can thank your parents. Mm-hmm. Thank your ancestors. I said, okay. So I did that every morning. And it shifted. Steven came into my life and everything shifted and I have a beautiful life. And what it was is she was teaching me to be grateful. Mm-hmm. So nowadays it's a cliche. Everybody's like, oh, be grateful, be grateful, uh-huh. be grateful. You know, 35, 40 years ago, no, nobody talked about that. Uh-huh. So gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude. That's my spiritual foundation. And is the cure for everything. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, when you got it hard, if you just shift your perception a little bit towards gratitude, you know, I think it was Maya Angelou that said, you know, say thank you now uh-huh. because you know the rainbow's coming.
I love that. So it's not necessarily God or like the Holy Mm-mm. Spirit.
No.
For you, it's gratitude. It's very similar to like some Buddhist beliefs.
Yes, and that's how I was raised in Japan. My aunt and uncle, right? They were Buddhists. So they don't have, you know, per se a God, mm-hmm. right? Yes. It's, you know, it's nature.
The oneness.
It's one, yeah.
Yes, and you know what's so interesting is that recently I've started a Christian journey. However, I don't identify as a Christian, but I love Christian beliefs just as much as I love Buddhist beliefs, Stoic beliefs, Baha'i beliefs. And what I've realized is that it all coexists in one huge spiritual faculty in my mind and in my heart. And it's very interesting for me to learn about each different one. I accept them all, and I feel like they're all here to guide different demographics of human beings throughout different generations. And really, they all say the same thing. What does the next level of enlightenment look like for you?
I am learning to really slow down to receive that information. So I'm a planner mm-hmm. because, like I say, you will never find me where I don't want to be. Mm-hmm. I have a very low tolerance for an environment that doesn't work for me. You know, that's why, like, at 17, I'm like, I ran away. I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, Amy told us. She said last night, if you were there, you would have kind of stood your ground for something that happened. And then it kind of gave me insight. I was like, oh, okay. Eddie don't play around. You know, your husband, Steven, is one of the most crafty individuals I've ever met. Can you share some of the techniques he used to bring this vision to life? Example, the charring of the Japanese. Yes, yes. Like to me, that was fascinating. And then what that charring does, the benefits of it.
Well, he's a self-taught craftsman, self-taught woodworker. You know, we've been together since we're 26 years old. And for us, you know, anything that I wanted in the house, you know, how I want my home, but it's beyond my reach financially, or I can't find it, just the right thing, you know. So, so early on, Steven just self-taught himself to build me and our home beautiful things, anything from our bed or because I was like, I go, can you make me like a kimono looking bed frame, you know, like and he's like, okay. So he made me a kimono looking bed frame, a credenza, beautiful credenza. He built the whole back house. So in Long Beach, we have 2-on-1. And when my father got a degenerative lung disease and had to retire and go on disability, and they had a 2-story home, he couldn't get upstairs, so I sold their home for them, and then Steven built the back house for them. So that
Where
whole
does he
house,
find the time for
I know.
this?
Oh gosh, so it's 35 years at American Airlines. So like building the back house, it was on the weekends. It was between him flying all over the globe. Yeah.
You know, I was curious, just watching the two of you interact and coexist in this space. I see him putting around, going back, and you come together, hi babe, and then you kind of do your thing. You have this understanding that I'm sure took years to develop. How was it like being with him in the corporate world to where he is now in this very balanced, seemingly balanced understanding?
You know, what you see between us, we were like that from day one with each other. Day one. Yeah. We just, so easy.
So he always had that in him. He was always that kind soul, enlightened
I
being.
always said that, and still to this day, Steven is the most healthy person I've ever met, and healthy in terms of mentally, emotionally, right? And what he said, what he loved about me is because even though unlike him, like he's had no trauma, he's had no conflicts, no super smooth life. And here he sees me, he's like, you know, he's from a family of 7 siblings, and he's like, God, it's just you and your sister and parents, and it's like so much drama and so much, you know, conflict. But he's always, and still to this day, I say he's the healthiest person I've ever met emotionally and mentally. And, you know, I mean, and we came together right in the midst of, you know, Tony taking his life and him taking on, you know, my kid. Yeah. But we've been, what you see today, we've been like that with each other since really day one.
You know what? I just made a relation, and Steven reminds me of Kenji. Kenji is my Steven.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I'm the one. Because do I have to explain? No, my life is filled with like turmoil and interesting things, the people around me, and I've always felt like I was pretty centered. But you know, in recent history, I've dealt with a lot of adversity and whatnot, and he has been my Steven. And I just realized that right now, as you're talking about him, I am you. Seriously, so thank you, Kenji. And that's what really kind of balances this whole podcast, and the fact that I bring a lot of the emotion and, you know, silliness, and he has this like this centered control and logic that really balances us out. And I think that was a great epiphany. So,
and what Steven loved about me is, even though I had such a tumultuous, you know, life, my personality didn't reflect it. Like he's like, oh, he's like, you have no baggage.
Wow. Well, I feel that. I feel that as well. I do want to touch on the furnishings, okay? Because every piece on this property look like or feel like sentimental acquisitions. There seems like each one has a story. Are there any pieces here that you'd like to highlight or talk about?
Well, this line I found when I was furnishing a penthouse in an urban area in Long Beach. And I liked the concept. And so when I bought this place, I'm like, just do it all in Pacific Green Furnishings. That's what the line is called. And I'm a keeper. I'm not one, like, I've had these couches for 25 years. There's an article, Los Angeles Times actually wrote an article about these couches that were in Long Beach, and it talked about how Eddie Henry, it took 2 years for her to find just the right couch, and she was looking everywhere, and so she couldn't find it, and so she contemplating asking her husband to build a couch for her, so I will go without. And then when I do make a decision, yeah, they're keepers for life. They're everything I'm attached to. Yeah, I'm attached to.
What are you attached to this bowl here? Can you tell me about this?
Yes. So my husband got that. Isn't it beautiful?
It's beautiful.
So my husband got it for me because I said that I wanted to be a warrior, not a worrier.
A warrior, not a warrior.
Yeah.
And so I see arrows here. You use it, right?
Yeah.
I have to get a
And
shot
true,
of that.
like we had some crazy people, I'm a sharpshooter.
Really?
I am a sharpshooter. But I don't want to shoot somebody. But so I think this is a better alternative.
Hit him with an arrow. You know what's funny is I can really see you doing that. Okay, awesome. Also, is there anything significant about this chair that you're sitting in? Because you have this air of like nobility. You look like a queen in this chair.
Wow. Yeah. No, just great design, yeah. It looks like a crown. Great design. No, so I understand this, right? So if you're in a tropical place and it's hot, you can't have like this chair around you like this, right? So that's why they got the slats like this so you could breathe. Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
I also want to touch on this. So in the driveway, when you're approaching your property, there's two statues on the left and the right that appear to be welcoming your visitors. Can you explain that story?
Yes. So what those statues are, they're built in a small village in Indonesia. And this village, they're all temple carvers. And generation next to so these came from this little village. And the guys that you see, like if you went to the village, like you would see them because they happen to make them in their own liking. So even like their height and stuff. So yeah, they look like that with the mustaches.
Menehune height.
Menehune height. Yeah.
So the one on the left?
So the one on the left is a wise man, and he's got a staff, and he's got, a book. And so, he's a teacher and a wise man. And then the other guy, he's got a smile on his face. He's a greeter. But then you see on the back, he's got a sword, right? So he's a greeter, but he's also a warrior and a protector. And so their belief system, these guys, so they are there at the beginning of the driveway to completely clear everybody's energy. So you come in with a clean slate.
And then also something that I find fascinating is what you told us about the umbrella. So one of them standing like this, right? Can you tell us about the umbrella?
Yeah, traditionally they carry these black and white checkered gingham. It's a Balinese fabric, and he had an umbrella with this fabric, but the winds took it off into the valley somewhere, never could find it.
Wow.
And then from his foot, though, came up this kind of like this tree, and just right went from where he held the umbrella, and now he's got a kind of a little tree canopy umbrella instead of the umbrella. And so that's in the morning, that's where I go and I sit on the rocks and I talk to them both in the morning. And then, you know, amazing things happen. Last week, you know, a white owl came and was visiting me and Wonton, and
And you said that the owl appeared to be playing with Wonton.
Yeah,
which
he
is your
kept
cat.
fluttering around from one branch to, usually they just kind of like sit there, right? But he was fluttering about, like wanting to play with Wonton, and he was definitely getting his attention. Wonton was just still completely mesmerized. And then when he did finally go flying off into the horizon, and then Wonton was bouncing about, you know, kind of following, like, goodbye, come back, see you later, you know. So I think, so that spot was always where Ramen and Wonton used to play. They were siblings, but we lost Ramen. He got hit by a car on the road last year. And so Wonton's been on his own. But we go there in the morning, and so we think that was probably the spirit of Ramen visiting us.
Spirit. I'm sure there's a lot of spiritual things or supernatural things that happen around here. But I did want to revisit the tree that grew up, right? It looks like a desert rose. Was that a desert rose?
I don't even know what it is.
It looks like a desert rose, but it's a white rose. So my mother and my Obachan, my Okasan and my Obachan both were enamored with the desert rose plant, and it really does look like one. But the fact that it grew up through that, I literally was like, who put that there? And that's special. And then when you said that it happened on its own, was something that I felt was something that needed to be highlighted.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I got a couple more things. Let's go with the importance of fasting. We'll revisit food real quick because you told me something in the car yesterday, like after 17 hours, after 24 hours, what fasting does. And I do like to do intermittent fasting. When I wake up in the morning, I wait about 6 hours before I ingest anything besides water. Can you explain to us, in your perspective, what fasting does?
It is a huge tool to have in your toolbox for your health. And I learned about it because I was so sick, I couldn't eat. What happened to me is that what I've learned is that through all the stress and anxiety of, 20 years, life with Marcus, life with son addicted, is that you have cortisol running through your body all the time. And it's like, and it completely wrecks your microbiome. And that's where your immunity lies, is in your gut, your microbiome. So yeah, I was stripped. So it's so important for people to have a microbiome that trillions and trillions you have, and most important, diversity. Okay, you have to have different kinds. But through a lot of stress and the fight and flight and cortisol, I was like completely stripped. I had no diversity. And I developed tremors. I couldn't eat if I even just had a glass of water. My body would reject it. I'd projectile vomit it. They were doing MRIs and scans. They thought maybe I had a brain tumor. They were wanting to put me on gabapentin for all the pain that I was experiencing, this and that. And yeah, like one day, I mean, I couldn't even just hold water down, so I didn't eat. And for like 48 hours. And I was like, whoa. I was like Superwoman. The clarity, I mean, man, and the energy and everything. So then I learned So first of all, you don't want to be, if you're having ailments, you don't want to, it's a lot of work to digest food. So best to just not have your body working towards digesting food, right?
And digesting,
Industrial seed oils, right?
processed
Poison,
foods,
processed foods,
GMOs, and all the
GMOs.
synthetic stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis. So I mean, even if you're eating healthy, fresh, organic fruit, your body still, it takes a lot for your body to burn that food, right? And then make it into energy, right? So when you minus that, your body starts working on itself, right? And creating new stem cells, regenerating.
In 17 hours of abstinence from food, your gut starts to create stem cells. And no matter where it is, your body knows where to send the stem cells. So if you got a backache, that's where it's going to send it. And I also learned about it because a few years ago, I did end up having to have surgery and replaced all of my discs in my neck. It looked like from this lack of, cortisol and lack of microbiome diversity, my bones became very brittle. And it was like, they were like, what semi-truck hit you, rear-ended you? It was just, my neck was just like crushed and impeding the spinal cord. So I got new discs. But for years, since 26, I've had lower back problems. That's where my body, like when Tony took his life is when all of a sudden I have back problems, right? And so he didn't do surgery on my lower back, but he took the, from my hip, the bone marrow, and spun it to get the stem cells and then injected it in my back. And this is about 3 years. And it's like, I have a brand new back. And then he explained to me, he says, your body can make its own stem cells. So he says, whenever you're having some ailments or whatever, fast, and it'll create its own stem cells.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I'd love to look more into that. You're such a seasoned woman. You're rich in history and culture, but I would say rich in experience. What advice could you give a 41-year-old man that wants more peace and clarity in his life? And that's me.
Oh my God. So, my boys are like the same age, right? So I've been giving them a lot of advice, right? So there's so much. I don't know if I can pinpoint it to one. There's so much, and I feel like I'm still not raising my boys, but I'm still guiding.
It never ends. My mom, you should see her. Every time I see her, hi mom, hey, you know what you should be doing? And I'm like, and now I've accepted it. At one point I kind of was like, Mom, can we just have a conversation? Right? And then now I just see that she ultimately just wants to do everything she can to help guide me, because I need it, and she cares. She sees what I don't see. So the reason why I ask you is because I respect you a lot. I admire the story, and then I also feel like we have some similarities. So if there's anything you can tell me that first comes to mind that you feel like maybe I could focus more on a little bit, for clarity and guidance. I want when I grow up, I want to be like you and Steven. I want to have a sanctuary like this. I want my kids, I want to have a great relationship with my adult kids and my grandkids. I want to be healthy. I want to be financially stable. I want to be mentally clear. I want to understand who I am. And I want to accept that I'm going to die someday. And I feel all that from you guys. I just had a conversation with Steven just now about time is getting short. I understand that. So everything I do, I don't wait. I don't wait on doing it. That's a project. I'm just going to go and get it. He said, if I sit there and he's like, then I'm not going to do it. He's like, the best advice his father ever gave him is don't half-ass anything, 100 everything. And now every time he thinks about anything that he's going to do, that pops up in his head again. And then he attacks and this place is a testament of that understanding.
So Michael's birthday was, last month, and so of course I wished him happy birthday, and what I said to him is wishing you just abundant joy and serenity. And I said, it goes by fast. So I said, be very intentional.
Yes.
So that's my advice to you,
Thank
be
you.
very intentional. Know that it goes by fast. And yeah, focus on joy and making sure that you have that serenity.
Thank you. So before we close this out, I wanted to give a statement on what this place has done for me in less than 48 hours. And I'm not just talking about the dichotomy of the energy I experience in my day-to-day life on Oahu, and then the contrast to the energy that I've experienced here on Kauai, because it is vastly different. Last night when we were in a restaurant, what is the restaurant name?
Tahiti Nui.
Tahiti Nui, which was I think that restaurant was also in the Descendants.
Yes.
Okay, so we were there having our little Kauai experience, and there was a bunch of locals that came up to us separately that recognized that we were from Oahu. And it was one of those things that I was like, how obvious is it and what is it? One thing that I noticed about the Kauaians is they're very generous. There's a softer side to them, but there's also a protective, weary type of energy that I got. Like, what type of Oahuan are you? But I know you're from Oahu and I want to let you know I know that. How's your experience here? I'm just over here, you know, we're very loving Oahuans. So I think that we were being embraced last night in a lot of different ways. But what I was talking about, the dichotomy of the energy, the contrast. In where we are currently right now at the Palmwood Bed and Breakfast, this place, I was able to get introspective when I stepped on this property in a way that I couldn't do necessarily, or maybe in very small pockets on Oahu. This place, there's no helping it. You just go inward. There's no distraction. You know what the distractions are? It's not distractions, they're accents. It's nature, it's the oneness, it's the connection, it's energetic, it's spiritual. I was able to talk to myself and hear myself. That was crazy, right? Like, I try to do that at home sometimes, but I'm distracted by the construction that's going on or my neighbor's loud music. Here, the serenity is impeccable. And it's like, if you want to connect with yourself, that self-awareness, that emotional intelligence, these are all things that you can, that are more apparent and more obvious when you remove yourself from the traffic and the static of a big city like Honolulu. So my experience here was one that I think Kenji can also relate to. Even though this dude is stable as hell and doesn't appear to need this type of thing, what it's done for me was it kind of recentered myself. And now I'm going to go back into my lovely routine, which I absolutely love and I have a lot of responsibility for, but I'll bring a higher state of enlightenment because of this experience. And I think that that's something that, you know, you can expect if you decide to come on a retreat like this and spend time with Eddi and Brother Steven. And thank you. I just want to say mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Thank you.
Well, thank you, because, you know, we are making these offerings, but you have to be the one to receive it. So thank you for receiving the gifts and our offerings.
You're welcome. And I do have to mention this as well. Amy Benson, okay? Amy Benson is a special woman. And just like Steven recognized, actually the way that you recognized in Steven who he was, even though he was going through a frantic corporate environment world and there's so many demands, you know, he was required by so many people. He had so much responsibility. And you recognize that through that. I recognize in Amy Benson her quality The first time I watched one of her podcasts, I just want to say that she actually inspired me to be better in front of the camera because she's a natural. She didn't seem like she was thinking. It comes from somewhere deep, right, in her. So that was something that I referenced in the infancy of our podcast, Kenji. And I told her a long time ago too. I don't know if she remembers. But anyway, so Amy is fostering this relationship between brotherly time and Eddi and Steven. And I feel like the spiritual spider web, the connections that are being made right now is one of the most beautiful aspects about this. And when I'll maybe, later on when we talk to Amy down by the pool, I'll let her explain how we came to mind when Eddi asked Amy to be creative. So I'll let Amy do her thing later. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Amy Benson, the person who you are, the person that you remain to be, and the person that you will become in the brotherly time journey. So thank you so much, sister. You're amazing. And I can see the difference in you too. With your experience here, I see you different. You're a different, more authentic version of yourself. So there's much in store for you as well, sister. When you met Eddi, she also came with 2 children. I want to know your experience and your mentality going into a relationship with a woman in that situation.
Well, honestly, I never put any real thought to, taking on a already made family, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a process in my mind. I was doing my thing, moving on in my career. And then simply, we had known each other since we were 19. So there was acquaintance here and there at various events, friends' houses, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So until we actually formulated a relationship, that was never in my radar. Mm-hmm. So when it did finally become real, mm-hmm. so to speak, to be honest with you, I never really put any thought to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and a good example of that is, I'll give you a clear point, that when it came time for me to have my own child, she gave me that opportunity, which I could have taken easily. Mm-hmm. However, I decided not to because I already had 2 children, and I was fine with that. I didn't need a legacy of my own born just to prove a point later on or increase my longevity once I'm gone. That didn't matter. Mm-hmm. So, the kids came with her. Mm-hmm. They were a package, so that was immediately accepted by me.
So at 65 years young, you and Eddi are actually the same age. Do you find value in having a relationship with somebody that's the same age as you?
I do, because, we're kind of kindred spirits in a sense. And I don't know if age plays a complete role in, how we see things, and because we've always been mm-hmm. connected in so many different ways. But I think age, if you have a 20-year gap on somebody, that's surely going to make a difference, mm-hmm. right? Generations are different. Mm-hmm. They evolve differently. Your frame of mind, mm-hmm. as you age, changes. So I guess if you have relationships with large age gaps in them, there could be certain issues, mm-hmm. And so there is an advantage to it, I would say.
Okay, so, we've only had minimal interactions, but they were very rich in the context that I learned a lot. There was a lot of insights. For some reason, when I first shook your hand, one of the first things you said to me is like, "Hey, you know what? I'm 65. You're what, 40? I'm 41. You're like, don't waste any time. Fill your life with things that you want. Keep your foot on the gas. Go. Don't rest." And I was like, that's very important information that actually resonates with me right now where I currently am. I want to know from you, what is the meaning of life?
Well, the meaning of life for me is to be present, mm-hmm. Get involved, share my experience with others, in hopes that something I've said or done can make life easier for other folks, mm-hmm. right? Or give other folks ideas of, how precious time really is. And you really learn that as you get older. You know, because your body changes, your physicality changes, your mental status changes. And then you realize, wow, there's so many things I want to do. And now I'm 65. It doesn't stop you from doing them, but let's face it, age is age and time is time. And that's one thing we don't get to actually pinpoint and say, well, I'm going to live this long, because I don't know. I could be here today and gone tomorrow. So now my mindset has changed as I age, like, well, make the best of it. Do the best you can, right? Live life to the fullest, no matter what that is. Find something you really love and do it. Go for it. That's kind of the key, because a lot of people want to be all over, they want to do everything. Well, you don't have time for that. Find something you love, drive towards it, and hopefully along the way help other people, if possible, and live life to the fullest.
Steven, are you afraid of death?
I'm not. I don't even, I've contemplated a few times here and there. I think I focus more on how I want to die than anything else. And it's interesting because speaking with you guys, there was a whole conversation about my passing. And my original passing was to have a Viking funeral, boat, float out, somebody shoots a flaming arrow. I basically become barbecue for the ocean. But then recently, talking to you guys, I have a new concept. And maybe I shouldn't say this publicly because somebody may stop me from doing it. But actually, I would love to be either tossed in or jump in the volcano when I'm at my end. Now, of course, that timing is not controlled by me. But for me, it's the same type of passing. But having the privilege to do something like that and have a permanent place in this world inside of, one of Earth's phenomenons would be spectacular for me. It's probably asking a lot, but it is something I'd love to do.
I've never heard that. It seems fascinating. And if you have the ability to jump, that would be a pretty interesting decision that you would have to make.
Well, there's so many tools out there, like, for example, jetpacks and things that you can launch yourself off on. And then I just give somebody a kill switch or whatever, and they hit the switch. Because to be honest with you, everybody says they want to go at a certain time in a certain way. But when you get there, that doesn't mean necessarily you're going to pull that trigger, right? Because our whole objective is to live as long as we can, be as healthy as we can. So who knows what will happen when that day comes? But that would be a good ending for me.
Well, you're a visionary. Let's say that. So that brings me to my next question. What do you feel happens after we leave the physical, when we die?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I would like to believe that we are a level of energy, and energy never dissipates. It just changes form. So in my mind's eye, and keep in mind, I grew up Catholic, so that's a completely different experience. But in my mind's eye, I think my energy is going to transform into something else, whatever it be, animal, soil, another human. I mean, there's all kinds of facets, but I think the energy is going to still be there one way or the other. And I say that in the sense that hopefully if I am in a spirit form, somebody else can capture that energy and use it for good or doing things that help others, etc. So that's kind of my view of how I would like it to be.
I was thinking this too. When you do pass, if you'd be around here some of the time, I'm sure you built a lot of this. A lot of you is in this place. So I would feel like you might gravitate towards being here as well. But you also strike me as someone that would travel the universe as well.
Which would be perfect for me because I'm a sci-fi fanatic. So I believe in all of this energy is here on the planet and it's all being shared by all of us together. But then it's also far beyond that, because let's face it, how many planets and systems are there out there? There's no way we could possibly be the only entities in just our universe. Never mind all of the galaxies that are far, far beyond that. So the big thing for me is like we get this little microcosm of time on Earth. And unfortunately, at this age, I'm just now learning that I need to capitalize the best I can with this little bit of time I have. Because let's face it, humans have been here the least of any creature. Dinosaurs have lived here a lot longer. And our time is limited, you know, and who knows what we'll evolve into, but I sure like to be around to see it.
So you're saying we're 40, right? Kenji's 40, I'm 41. You're 65. I want advice or maybe insight as to what you feel just by feeling who we are. What should we be focusing on right now?
Well, I think you should focus on yourself and family first and foremost, right? Because there's nothing more important than that. Yourself and family. And then from that beyond, anybody you can help outside of your immediate sphere, try to do it. If it doesn't cost you anything, other than time and a little bit of effort, try to help as many people as you can, because that will be passed on from one person to the next, and hopefully proliferate through many people. Because without that, what do you have? You have power and control over everything. And people go through life a lot of times on their own, and they feel helpless. They feel helpless in a lot of cases because they don't have support. So the more we support each other in this world, from family out, the better off we're going to be. I was fortunate to grow up with 6 siblings, a grandmother, 2 dogs, and we had a very fulfilling life. But what that did more for me than anything was gave me a very strong foundation. So that base in itself, no matter what happened to me in the world, from that time forward till where I went out in the world on my own, I never felt alone. You know, I never felt separated. I never felt, you know, like an individual that had to fight and do everything by myself, because I always had that original family unit that really sticks in your core and allows you to push forward through everything, no matter what. And so I was very fortunate in that sense.
You know what? What I'm thinking is that it's more of a perspective, because Eddi mentioned that you had a life that seemed to be trauma-free. But you did mention to us yesterday about the corporate world and the type of dynamic that you experienced and how sometimes it was challenging and whatnot. To me, that's a form of trauma. But the way that you see things in your perspective is fortified in a way that you're like, it's not going to affect me. So you probably have gone through things that other people would interpret as traumatic, but it's the way that you handle it, the way that you see it, and process it is really what's fascinating to me. Am I right?
Yeah. So that goes back to that whole family unit and the strength my parents and siblings gave me to, you know, fight in this world. I don't consider it trauma. I consider it challenges.
Okay.
Because everybody knows what's out there, from people's behaviors, how they vary based on race, ethnicity, etc., religion. So I was raised to meet the challenges. And technically, you know, one of the things my father also told me was, you know, don't let those things get in your way.
Yeah.
They go, you know, if it's verbal, if it's in your face, if it's even about us, ignore it, push on, you know. And of course, you know, the basic mindset was, well, don't let people lay hands on you, because that's a different story. However, short of that, move on with your life. Those are just obstacles you need to move out of the way, or figure out a way to move them out of the way so that you can continue to move forward with your life. So that's kind of been my philosophy, no matter what.
I think I know the answer to this question, but have you ever done anything that you regret?
Things I regret. I kind of live my life trying not to regret things. Basic decisions, I should say, maybe certain things I thought I should have done financially to get further ahead. Early on, I used to think, well, I should have taken that job, or I should have done this or done that. But the truth is, as I get older, I realize I made all of those decisions for a good reason. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really regret any of it, because it's part of life, let's face it. You make good decisions, you make bad ones, you have neutral decisions. And if you carry on, let's face it, it all kind of works out in the end.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you.
You're right. Okay, so I want to talk to you about, I want to address the men out there. In your opinion, what is the role of a man in society and also in a family dynamic?
I would say the role of a man is to do the best he can to support his family unit, whether it be just his spouse and children, your in-laws, your grandparents, your parents, everybody. I think it's our job to help support and put our arms around our family group so that we can all thrive together. Because I think a lot of people run into life where they don't have a lot of support. Or maybe the male isn't in their lives. And I think it's important to have a complete family unit. It really is. You got to kind of have both because you get better balance that way. I mean, there's a lot of life now where family units fall apart very early in life.
Yes.
The father's missing, sometimes the mother's missing, your grandparents are missing, and all those people are critical in the relationships that you build throughout life. So, I've always looked at it as my job is to support, hold up, keep things moving forward the best I can and give good examples, in my case, to my two sons, right? Because I want them to see me, especially the way I interact with their mother and other people, in a good light. I want them to see that, our levels of the way we feel, certain aggressions that males have that women do not, those things shouldn't be present in a relationship, right? Because I don't want to send that message to my children, especially males, that this is how you maintain control of your family dynamic, because it's not. It's all about balance in life. And so to me, that's the important thing, is holding a position in this world so that we have a stable environment. And a good example is me and Eddi. She's the entrepreneur, the one flowing through businesses and individual opportunities, where I was the stable person. I had the job, the regular job.
Insurance.
I had the insurance, I had the medical, and that's really a good place of balance, because not everybody can be an entrepreneur. I know you said I seem visionary, but I'm just now learning all these things because I've been a corporate robot for a very long time. So I did as I am told to do, ordered, and pass that down to my fellow workers. I had my own way of doing things, clearly, but you're still giving all of your energy to someone else. Whereas if you are free-spirited like Eddi is, and you can create your own environments, then you're working for yourself 100% of the time. So between the two of us, that's where that whole beautiful, at least I hope, balance comes from. And that's why we've been together probably as long as we have.
When I first saw you, the first thing that I thought was, this guy's in shape. How important is exercise to you at this point in life?
The older you get, the more critical exercise becomes. And the reason being is gravity's pushing you back into the earth. And you lose all of your muscle density, you lose your cognitive skills, you lose a lot of things. And exercise keeps your I think mood stable as well, which people don't talk about a lot. They say the physicality of it, me doing X amount of push-ups a day and various stretches and certain very animal exercises. But at the end of the day, it also helps my mood a great deal. It keeps me mentally balanced as well, which actually keeps me going. And, I want a certain physicality. I have this thing in the back of my head, and I've had it for a very long time, is, well, if a dog was chasing me, could I run fast enough, number one, to get away and get over that fence just in time to protect myself, no matter what age I am? And, I could say I could answer that question if tested, but only time will tell. But at the end of the day, physicality is critical. And the older you get, the more you need to do, because it gets tough. You go through life cycles where you hit 40 and something happens to your body. You hit 45 and something changes in your body. And when I say changes, you may not have done anything unusual to injure yourself, but literally wake up and you felt like a platoon walked over you in the middle of the night.
Is that what it is?
And you get this sudden shift and realize, wow, what the heck just happened to me? Did somebody beat me up while I was asleep? And that change is permanent. So the only really way to offset that is through strenuous physical exercise.
Thank you for that. I did want to touch up on one last thing for me, and if I think Kenji might have some questions as well. But I wanted to know what kind of challenges you faced living up here, and it could be natural challenges, weather, also insects. Like you told me that there's one point where in the top floor you had 300 wasps. I want to know about some of those challenges.
I would say, as far as environment goes, a lot of people tend to want to fight the environment. And what I've learned here more than anything else, because I'm in the middle of it all the time, is don't fight it. Be part of it. Because anything out there in nature is not really there to hurt you. It's just out there to do the same thing you're doing. Survive, move forward to whenever that end time comes. So I've learned to live my existence with nature. And the more I do that, the more I realize nature is actually helping me. Like, for example, I just built a bog filter for my pond. And there was a question about, well, do I leave the frogs? Because frogs are going to drop, tadpoles and eggs. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. If I want my pond even cleaner, first of all, the frogs tell me my eco-environment is fantastic because they're there, especially if they're breeding there. And then the tadpoles are vegetarian, so therefore they eat all of the algae that I'm trying to get rid of in the first place. So if I take them out of the picture, I have just created a gross imbalance and more work for myself. So I realized leaving nature alone and let it do what it needs to do, I gain all the benefits from that. So for me, nature is a place that needs to be around me. I realize it also helps me maintain my own personal balance. So I've learned to adapt to accept it as it is. And to date, I've had no issues with it.
What does the next level of enlightenment look like for Steven?
I would say enlightenment is a continued process of learning more every day, meeting more people who care about a lot of the things that I care about, assisting, aiding, helping others as much as I humanly can in any way or shape that I can. And continuing to create balance in my life, and anybody who I come across, and help them balance their lives if they choose to bring me into their spirit and balance life out together. I mean, that's kind of my thing. I think enlightenment is learning, and learning moves you forward, and it just brings more understanding of what people see and see, things that they feel that they don't understand through life or confuse them. I just think those types of things open your mind better. So for me, that's how I kind of see enlightenment.
What was the best piece of advice that your father gave you?
I would say his most solid advice, and let's face it, he's given me many things, but this is the one thing that has always stuck with me, and it's based around a work ethic or life ethic. And that is simply, if you're going to take on any task, no matter what it is, especially if you don't want to do that task, either do it 100% or not at all. There's no 50, there's no 75, it's 100% or don't do it at all. And, I've gone through life and run into many challenges in work and life, etc. And I kind of bring that phrase out each and every time when I want to back away to push myself forward and say, okay, you're going to do it, so you're going to do it 100%.
Wow. So you hear your dad
Constantly, to this day.
Okay, then you also had an experience with the Tuskegee Airman. Can you give us some context?
Well, it was fascinating. We go through life and think of all the struggles that we have personally. But, you're talking about many generations before us. And then somebody's standing on the stage and they're 102 years old and they're one of the last remaining fighter pilots from the war that has saved many, many bombers, captains and pilots' lives. And then you realize, wow, my life is somewhat minuscule, and the things that I think that I went through that were very challenging probably weren't even close to what this gentleman did, especially considering the fact that he has full dexterity, he can see well, he's standing up straight, he's strong, he's courageous, he is a master's degree in engineering. I mean, and this is way back when all of this happened. So at the end of the day, he can't become a pilot outside of the military, which of course, which is what they usually do. They transition. And pilots want to be pilots because they want to be pilots. They want to fly airplanes. But at the same time, because of the way our country is structured, he wasn't able to do that. You know, he wasn't able to pursue a career in that. But that didn't stop him, did it? He made a call to one of his captains that had claimed that this gentleman saved his life many a times during these bomber runs, and end up going into becoming a fireman because this guy happened to be the fire chief. And so, long story short, he eventually evolved, and with the way he moved through life, became the fire chief himself down the road. You know, and he's telling these stories. And so after, I'm so fascinated by his vigor and the way he lives life, and the fact that he's 102 and traveling all around the world giving lectures, that I had to go to him and, you know, just ask him, well, what's your secret? And he said, secret of what? I go, secret of life. How have you lived so long? And to be honest with you, he said to me, well, the number one thing is you need to stay out of hospitals, which I thought was, you know, I kind of chuckled, but you know, he said, you know, you need to take this seriously. You need to stay out of hospitals. He goes, if you talk to any centurions, they'll tell you the same thing. That was his one piece of advice. The other piece of advice he gave me, which is the most critical, and I've followed since that day, is not sitting down in one place for any given length of time. Keep moving, keep functioning, keep operating. This will keep your body physically fit, as he showed me himself. And will keep your cognitive skills very high. And since that day, that's how I've tried to live my life, just by taking advice from him and seeing that he's gotten to a very old age and he's a very healthy and wise individual.
You see how what you told me in the beginning was similar to the advice that he gave you. It's just crazy to me that how the advice travels, and you decide to give that certain advice to certain people. Lastly, I would like you to just tell me what it means to you when he said, stay out of hospitals.
It was telling me that, well, the way I internalized it, I'll put it this way. If you take care of your body and your mind, the rest will fall into place. Your health will be substantial. Your brain will be substantial because you've taken all of these steps to help keep yourself away from diseases. Let's face it, diseases are there because something now at one point in time or another, because you're remiss on nutrients or whatever it may be, or the environment is impacting you. If you understand how that works, then you should already know that your body is designed to take care of itself, including cure itself from diseases and health problems. So that's how I internalize it, is the way I stay out of a hospital is by taking care of myself. And so far, so good. But, you know, only time will tell.
My man, thank you for your mana'o. That was wonderful.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys having me, and it's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm sure this is not the end of our relationship.
No, it's not, for sure. So I would say, what am I? Who am I? I'm a person, human being, just like anybody else. But at the same time, I'm realizing, you know, I was totally engrossed in a world that was someone else's, because that's what the corporate world is. I'm a cog in a machine. And as long as you keep putting the grease on, I'm functioning, right? But in essence, I'm doing it for someone else, not myself. So if you spend that much time anywhere, you've been primarily programmed to a certain degree to do a certain thing for a certain length of time. So when that's all gone away, then suddenly people sit there, and then sometimes even before they leave, they sit there and think to themselves, well, what am I going to do? And then so I asked myself that question as well. And within the context of that question, I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. I've got many, many skill sets. I've got many things I can do. Or I can absolutely do nothing if I choose to. But of course, that's not my persona. So then I realized, well, wait a minute. I've been doing this, woodworking, building fountains, dealing with organizations along with Eddi, helping out here and there, being a big support member. And literally, that was a big part of my life, even through my working process. So I said, well, wait a minute. Now I can do a lot more of that and take 100% of my energy and use it for that purpose. So then I realized that that work was not me. It was just work. The real me is now about to be revealed. And that's kind of my place in life right now.
We have our website, palmwood.com, and we've got a booking engine there, and we've been receiving guests here for 20 years. I'm happy to say that most of our guests are word of mouth and repeat, so a testament to what Steven and I have been doing here. And yeah, so you can find us, thepalmwood.com.
We're at 5,206 subscribers right now, and we got here organically, two brothers in Hawaii doing our thing. If you have access to resources, connections, infrastructure, capital, and most importantly, belief in what we're doing, and you want to see this channel grow without turning it into something fake or contrived, visit our website, fill out our Connect form. We read every submission, and if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode.